Hi, my name is Bryson Lockley, and for my leadership interview with the leader assignment, I decided to sit down with a personal friend of mine by the name of Rosalind Talbert. She is currently on the women's lacrosse team here, and I sat down with her because I do know she was selected by her teammates to be the freshman class representative for her team. Um, and so, with that being said, I had a few questions for her, and in that time, I find a couple of new things to think about and some interesting facts about her and being where her idea of leadership is. So, with first things first, I got her background, and right now she's currently a student here in Kennesaw State, and she's studying biology, where previously she worked at a family fun center as a manager. So my second question to her was point blank, what does she believe is her leadership style? And she believes she's a very vocal leader, where she believes in improving structure within the environment of who's ever following her. In this case, would be her teammates, and she considers herself. I consider herself to take on a more behavioral approach in terms of task behaviors, where she is facilitating goal accomplishment in whatever she is doing, whether it's with lacrosse girls, whether it's with her classmates, or anything. Um, and so, a little bit deeper in that, I asked her what was her personal view of leadership. And she went on to say that it's being a good role model consistently for people and knowing the difference between right and wrong. Um, Having everyone's best interests in heart and not just your own, and a lot of integrity. And I thought that was pretty cool that she brought up having everyone's best interest in heart because that is vital. And I also agree with that. Um, Now I asked her, how did she attain this view of leadership? Like, where, when did she find out that she concluded with this idea? She learned this basically just through trial and error. She didn't have anyone to kind of teach her how to be a leader. It's just with her personal experience. Also, she worked in her county's mini-thon, where she picked up on a few little tips from her peers. Then I went on to ask her whether or not she felt her gender, race, and culture impacted this idea of leadership in in her opinion. And she simply said no. She didn't feel as if all those played a factor. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Then I asked her, how does she interact with her followers? So in terms of being on the lacrosse team, she essentially works as a positive motivator as part of her job, as well as she allows her teammates to come to her about um, any ideas how to improve a drill or any adjustments they want to make in games. So she can go to coach instead of all of them bombarding their coach at one time. And I think that's a pretty good system. And then I asked her what are her thoughts on group processes and leadership. And she believes working in a group can be very efficient as long as everyone is putting in equal amount of effort and work. She feels is when people slack off or when people probably do too much, it unbalances things, and that can be a problem. Um, so then I had a question about any day-to-day issues that she faces with being a leader, and she says wondering whether or not she is ever doing enough. And I thought about it when you have a lot of people depending on you, when you have your teammates depending on you, is when can you conclude that you have done enough to help somebody? It could be a lot of paranoia in that. So that's the one issue. And she says sometimes when she's trying to get through to her teammates, when they might be doing something wrong, they might be slacking, and they don't grasp or what she's saying, or they don't change, I guess she feels like she's failing them. So my next question for her was, what were her ethical responsibilities of a leader? She said two things, plain and simple, is being fair and consistent with attitude and effort. Being fair with all her teammates and showing up every day to practice, to workouts, to anything with a consistent attitude and effort, cannot slack because they are watching her and anything and everything that she's doing. And considering that I'm studying leadership right now, I asked her for any advice in the class. And she suggested being open-minded to developing a different way of being a leader. Because I, per se, lead by example. And that may not be effective with everyone. That may be effective with a certain amount of people, certain specific people. But what are different ways that I can learn to be a leader and impact a lot more people instead of just being one-dimensional? So that was her advice to me. And then I asked her two more questions. I asked her what are her challenges as a leader she's encountered, as well as the strengths that enabled her to get it done or overcome that. And she said struggling to find a balance between pleasing everybody and doing what's right. So after a couple failures, she told me to embrace failure. Don't be afraid of it, because when you're a leader and you want to make sure your followers believe in you and trust you, you tend to just do above and beyond until you corrupt your morals, I guess, in a way. That's what I got from her. So she said just find that even balance. That's what she struggled with until she realized it's better to not drift to one side, whether you've completely focused on doing what's right or completely focused on just helping people, just trying to please people constantly. It's just even balance. And then lastly, I asked her for any tips that she can give me in terms of being a leader. And that's simply what she said. Do not try to be a people pleaser. A leader is not a people pleaser. It is a person to simply get things done. And so I learned a lot from this interview, and that concludes my interview with Ms. Rosalind.